Hello, lovely people. Why, yes, this is the delightful Because Gay an Hour pin from my merch collection. And yes, you can buy one by clicking the top link in the description of this video. Amazing. For today's episode of Queer History 101, we're going to be talking about LGBTQ+ conversion therapy. We'll be covering its origins, early treatments, and how, despite overwhelming evidence that it is A, entirely ineffective in its aim, and B, devastatingly traumatic for those involved, it's still a practice used across the globe today. Please note, we're going to be discussing some potentially triggering topics around traumatic mental health treatments, depression, psychosocial trauma, some not super fun subject matters. So if that doesn't sound like something you can handle right now, there are a lot of other very safe videos on my channel for you to enjoy. Let's begin with, what is conversion therapy? It sounds harmless, right? No. The Trevor Project defines conversion therapy as any of several dangerous and discredited practices aimed at changing an individual's sexual orientation or gender identity. For example, that could mean attempting to change someone's sexual orientation from lesbian, gay, or bisexual to straight, or their gender identity from transgender or non-binary to cisgender. To give you an idea of scale, it's thought that over 700,000 people have gone through conversion therapy in the US alone. One country. Now, a little slice of etymology for you. The term therapy derives from the Greek word therapia, meaning healing, curing, service done to the sick. And this is precisely the crux of why conversion therapy is so problematic. It assumes that the subject is ill and in need of a cure. So where therapy means healing, conversion therapy actually does the opposite, often causing long-lasting psychological and physical damage, thanks to both interrogative and physically invasive treatments. Survivors of conversion therapy have been known to suffer from PTSD, homelessness, drug addiction, and more. It's important to stress that major medical and mental health organizations, including the NHS, the American Medical Association, and the World Health Organization, have condemned the use of conversion therapy. None of these organizations consider it effective in changing sexual orientation or even support its use to amend gender identity, nor deem it necessary in any way. Your gender identity doesn't need amending. Why then does conversion therapy exist? Well, surprise, surprise. Many societies don't like the existence of LGBTQ+ people. I hate to break that one to you, but I have a feeling you already knew. Homosexuality was regarded as a mental illness by the American Psychiatric Association until 1973 and was only removed from the World Health Organization's list of diseases and health problems in 1990. 1990. Moreover, only in 2019 did the World Health Organization denounce the idea that transgender people have a mental disorder. So, previously to this, in the 20th century, medical practitioners named same-sex desire in medical terms and were focused on trying to treat it and reverse its truly horrifying effects. Oh my goodness, so awful. Look at this, it's truly horrifying. Deep sarcasm. Which is not to say that we've progressed past this. How did conversion therapy start? Who can we blame here? Let's blame someone. The earliest record of a form of conversion therapy is from 1899 from a German psychiatrist called Albert von Schrenck-Notzing. It's on screen. I'm going to call him Albert, because it's probably best if I don't embarrass myself repeating his surname in my terrible German again. I am so sorry. Albert argued that homosexuality was the result of a severe weakness in resisting unusual sexual desires. He believed that this weakness was developed in life rather than genetic or congenital, and thus could be cured. As a result, he went on to treat his patients through hypnosis to reverse their same-sex desires. He claimed that he had successfully turned a gay man straight by not only performing over 40 series of hypnosis, but also taking him to a brothel so that he could realize what he was missing out on. Science? Fast forward to the early 20th century, and there were conflicting views on the ability to cure same-sex attraction. Freud believed that all people are born bisexual, and that their sexual development in youth determines their sexual preference. He believed that once those preferences were solidified, they could not be undone, and so couldn't be reversed. As weird as some of his theories were, he was one of the only psychoanalysts in this era who was adamant that same-sex attraction was not an illness. He even wrote a letter in 1935 to a concerned parent in response to her request for him to make her gay son straight, stating, "Homosexuality is assuredly no advantage, but it is nothing to be ashamed of, no vice, no degradation. It cannot be classified as an illness." Unfortunately, other psychoanalysts did not agree, and even used Freud's frameworks as a basis to form their own theories that LGBTQ plus folks could be cured. Psychologist Wilhelm Streckel took Freud's theory that everyone is born bisexual and argued that if some heterosexual tendencies were previously present, they could be brought up to the surface with just some good, hearty psychoanalytical treatment. Research around the ability to reverse same-sex attraction and gender identity issues continued to prevail into the mid-1900s, particularly after World War II. Upholding the traditional nuclear family was just deemed very important. You know, husband goes to work and wife stays home, has no ability to earn her own money, have any career of her choice, and must repress all ambition. Yes, standard, very important. As LGBTQ plus people didn't really fit into this conventional mould, conversion therapy rocketed as pressure from society as well as family members was rife. In addition, before the decriminalisation of homosexuality in 1967, conversion therapy was offered as an alternative to a prison sentence. Hey. One of the key researchers and practitioners in this space was Irving Bieber. Yes, Bieber. Yeah, you heard correctly. I really do hope that fans of his research called themselves believers too. Bieber argued that the family structure and parents' behaviour towards their children was the cause of same-sex attraction. For example, he believed that a son would become gay if they had an overbearing mother and a distant father. He therefore argued that psychoanalytical treatment could help repair the damage from the patient's childhood, which in turn would make them straight. These theories became well known to the public in 1964 when a summary of his research findings were published in an article in the form of a handy guideline for parents on how to behave around your children so they don't turn out to be gay. Thank goodness Claudia and I have access to this incredibly helpful resource now we have a baby on the way. Similarly, psychiatrist Charles Socarides held similar views to the Biebs and claimed about a third of his patients he worked with in the 1960s and beyond became heterosexual after psychotherapy. Sure they did, hon. Despite progress from the LGBTQ plus community in the second half of the 20th century and the rejection of homosexuality as a mental illness, Charles remained decidedly against the gay rights movement throughout his lifetime. He was adamant it was indeed a mental disorder and took it personally that his body of work was thrown into question. In 1992, he founded the National Association for Research and Therapy of Homosexuality, and then, in a true plot twist, his son Richard came out as gay. Delicious irony. Despite having a father who was central to the conversion therapy movement, Richard never himself underwent the practice. He went on to become an attorney and political strategist, and taking a polar opposite view to his father, served as senior advisor during the Bill Clinton administration, focusing on policy for gay rights. Stunning. Why is there not a movie about this family? This is the content I want to see. Historical treatments. What treatments were used in the mid-1900s? Well, being LGBTQ+ isn't a virus, you see, so unlike for COVID-19, Pfizer weren't interested in developing a gay vaccine. Still refreshing my emails constantly for my COVID vaccination notification. Slightly worried that I'm going to be lumped in with every other 30-year-old, even though, you know, I actually have a history of getting pneumonia and bronchitis, and I do have a neurological condition which does put me in the at-risk group. But, you know, who's even deciding who the at-risk group are? Oh. It's fine, we're fine, everything's fine. An early form of conversion therapy common in the 1950s and 60s, which is thankfully not used today, is the horrifying procedure of lobotomy, which you might remember I talked about in my profile of Rosemary Kennedy. Just click the card in the top left to watch that. Dr. Walter Friedman was known as the father of lobotomy, responsible for coining the technique and performing almost 3,000 lobotomies himself. The lobotomy revolution was popularized largely because of a scarcity of other treatments for mental health, and as being gay or transgender was considered a mental illness at that time, thousands of members of the LGBTQ+ community underwent this procedure as a way to reverse their sexual tendencies and gender confusion. It's believed that of the lobotomies Friedman himself performed, 40% were on queer people. It's no secret the lifelong impact this procedure had on many patients, many often losing their lives soon after and others left with severe, incurable brain damage. In addition to this, aversion therapy was a common practice in the 1960s. This is where a patient is subjected to a painful or distressing sensation whilst being exposed to a stimulus that represents their problem. For example, a patient might be shown a photo of their lover or a transgender individual, or even gay pornography, and whilst they're looking at it, they would be inflicted with pain. The idea being that if the patient could associate their queerness with pain or disgust, they could be cured. Clearly they were missing that the world already makes many young queer people feel like this. It's fine, homophobia. You're already an A student. You do not need to get cocky and overachieve. Pain was inflicted by either giving the patient a series of electric shocks or administering chemicals that would make them vomit or cause paralysis. It's not the brightest idea. I mean, I could sit for hours being shown a delightful slideshow of Walter and Tilly. They had their own Instagram, you know, should go and follow them. Whilst being kicked, and still not associate dogs with pain. It won't work. I'll never be a cat person. On the other side of the coin, rather than stimulating aversion, psychiatrist Robert Galbraith-Heath attempted to stimulate desire by exposing patients to stimuli that represented straight lifestyles. To note, don't be confused between him and Robert Galbraith J.K. Rowling's pseudonym. She probably didn't take the name from him. Although given her public transphobia, would we be surprised? Robert's treatment involved implanting electrodes directly into the brain and shocking the patient whilst they watched heterosexual porn in an attempt to just kick their brain into being straight. Records showed that even live sex workers were brought in to trigger the brain into heterosexual thinking. Again, I mean, science? As mental health research progressed into the late 20th century, the legitimacy of these traumatic procedures and their intentions were thrown into question. That, coupled with the progress for LGBTQ+ rights and an increase in acceptance of queer people globally, the techniques were either significantly reduced or entirely abandoned. In some places. Sadly, however, there are forms of conversion therapy still being widely practiced today. Conversion therapy today. There are few nations that protect those coerced into undergoing conversion therapy. In fact, Taiwan, Brazil, Ecuador, and Malta are currently the only countries to have imposed a national ban on conversion therapy. Yes, that's just 4 countries out of 195. And in the US, there are still 30 states that allow it. Conversion therapy today can take many forms. It can be one-to-one, in groups, in retreats, camps, conferences. It can be performed by licensed professionals, but also unlicensed ministries or unregulated life coaches with zero psychiatric or therapy training. That's right, you could become a conversion therapy professional right now. Please, I beg you, don't become one. That would be a really weird thing to take away from this video. Often, anti-LGBTQ+ groups that support this conversion therapy masquerade as a legitimate medical organisation to encourage more members to join them. For example, you might assume that the American College of Pediatricians is an innocent medical group that sincerely aims to protect children's lives. In reality, though, they are a listed hate group that link homosexuality to paedophilia, deem transgender healthcare for youth as child abuse, and fervently believe that therapy to restore heterosexual attraction has proven effective and harmless. Didn't see that one coming. It certainly isn't the case that these therapies work, however. And whilst some more extreme techniques such as lobotomy have been abandoned, psychotherapy, conversion programs, as well as medical interventions are still prevalent conversion techniques that cause deep psychological harm. Mental health content warning. A recent report by GLAAD found that LGBTQ+ Americans who have undergone conversion therapy are almost 6 times more likely to suffer from severe depression and 8 times more likely to have attempted suicide. In China, over 100 government-run public hospitals and private clinics offer conversion therapy. Researchers suggested that the country's one-child policy, combined with parental pressure to marry and to have children, has acted as a catalyst for conversion therapies, with most patients being forced into it by parents or pressure from society. Faith-based practices also dominate conversion therapy. In a UK study, 51% of conversion therapies were performed by faith-based groups. These groups often exploit those whose LGBTQ+ identity conflicts with their religious beliefs. So-called treatment is often labelled vaguely as a supportive retreat, where individuals go on a multi-day course for intensive inner healing and experiential processing, and are encouraged to fulfill their same-sex attraction through platonic ways. Yes, we'll all just friend zone the gay away. These organisations are also trying to rebrand conversion therapy as repatriative therapy or reintegrative therapy in an attempt to distance themselves from extreme aversion techniques from the past and promote more palatable forms of treatment. Don't be fooled though. This is still very much conversion therapy, where patients are shamed and made to feel guilty about their identity, and it's no less psychologically damaging than those more overt therapies from the 20th century. You can't trick us. We see you. It's not to be ignored though that many faith-based organisations have played an important role in protecting LGBTQ+ youth from conversion therapy. Most recently, in December 2020, more than 370 religious leaders, including Nobel Peace Prize winner Desmond Tutu, signed a declaration calling for an end to all attempts to change, suppress or erase a person's sexual orientation, gender identity or gender expression. In addition to psychotherapy, examples of medical intervention are still being found, particularly in countries like Iran. Homosexuality is an offence punishable by death in Iran, and those who fail to convert their sexual orientation are encouraged to undergo gender reassignment surgery so that they appear straight in society, which poses a very unique situation where, on the surface, it might look like Iran's acceptance of gender reassignment surgery as some kind of recognition of the transgender community, especially as the government not only promotes transgender people undergoing surgery, but also subsidizes it. Digging deeper though, the Iranian government deems transgender and homosexual identities as a mental illness where surgery is the cure. Their intention is to fit all citizens into two categories: straight male, straight female, and as such, homosexuality, bisexuality, and non-binary identities are just not tolerated. And finally, what is the UK's stance on conversion therapy? Is it banned here, I hear you say? No, it isn't. Organisations are still allowed to perform conversion therapies with absolutely no repercussions. In fact, it was found that 5% of UK LGBTQ+ people have been pressured to access conversion therapy services. Young, Black, Asian and ethnic minority people are also disproportionately subjected to these so-called treatments, where this figure rises to 9%. Most pressingly, it's found that 1 in 5 trans people have been pressured to suppress their gender identity through conversion methods. There is, however, a bill in place for a national ban to come into effect. Last summer, Boris Johnson said, "On the gay conversion therapy thing, I think that's absolutely abhorrent." The thing though, just that gay conversion thing. No big. The ban, however, was first announced in 2018. Still waiting for an update. The government has said they will outline their plans in due course. But I feel it's perhaps on the back burner given the pandemic that's still ravaging society, endless Brexit trade deals and leaving the EU, disastrous coup in Myanmar, democratic crisis in Hong Kong. I understand you have a lot going on right now, Boris, but it doesn't really feel like too much to ask you to ban something that actively ruins lives. In the meantime, we still have each other. If you fall somewhere under the LGBTQ+ umbrella, even if you're not quite sure where you fit, even if you don't think you deserve to be included because you've never actually done anything gay, even if your gender identity is something that you're scared to even think about, please know that you are loved, that you belong, and there is a happy, thriving community of wonderful rainbow people who will welcome you with open arms. You are not alone. You have others standing beside you, here to uplift you. One day, no LGBTQ+ person will have to face the threat of conversion therapy. You deserve goodness. You deserve love. You deserve freedom, and you most certainly deserve safety. In a pinned comment under this video, I'm going to list some organisations who can help you if you feel at risk due to your sexuality or gender identity. Please, other people, add on with any from your own area. And remember that you don't need to firmly identify yourself as being an exact label to access this help. You don't need to know for sure the exact term for your sexuality or gender identity. You can get help. Stay safe, and I'll see you in my next video.